All right, this one is fucking weird. Let's do it. Stop motion is about this girl named Ella, and her mother Suzanne is this like world renowned stop motion animator. Because of arthritis, Suzanne is no longer able to use her hands, so she forces her daughter Ella to take over her stop motion animating. But she's really like aggressive and abusive towards Ella, and she overworks her. But one day Suzanne has a stroke that lands her in the hospital, and Ella decides that she wants to finish the stop motion movie that they were working on by herself. So Ella has this boyfriend named Tom, and he recommends that Ella come live with him while her mother is recovering. But instead, Ella decides to go move into this like half-abandoned apartment building so she can finish her film. One day, Ella meets one of the only other people living in this apartment building, which is this little girl. We never get her name. She's just referred to and credited as Little Girl. So she starts asking Ella questions about the film that she's making, and when Ella tells her about it, the little girl tells her that her ideas are boring. And the little girl comes up with this new story. And her story is about a girl who's lost in the woods. And Ella decides to go with this and scraps her original idea. So as she's working on this new idea, the little girl keeps visiting her. And she tells Ella that her figures don't look realistic enough. And she suggests that Ella use this like rotten steak meat to make her figures. And while at first she's hesitant, she ultimately does it, and it actually works. They look more real. So the little girl continues to tell Ella her story, and it kind of unfolds as they go. And she explains that there is this girl lost in the woods, and she's being hunted by this man that we call the Ash Man. So Ella creates this Ash Man, but the little girl once again is not happy with it. And she tells Ella that the Ash Man needs to be made of something dead. And she takes Ella to the forest where they come across the body of a dead fox, and she insists that Ella use that. So Ella is like, absolutely fucking not, and the little girl is like, okay, then I'm not telling you the rest of the story. One night Ella goes to a party and she runs into Tom's sister Polly, and she asks Polly for LSD to help her get rid of this like creative block that she's having so she can finish the story on her own. And she just ends up having these weird hallucinations, including this creepy ass fucking puppet that's talking to her. And later that night, she decides that she's all out of ideas and she's going to use the fox carcass like the little girl said, and she does. Ella has another hallucination of the Ash Man staring at her through her window, which mirrors a scene from the film. The next morning, Tom finds Ella unconscious in her apartment and asks what happened. And it's at this point that she realizes that the LSD that Polly gave her is still in her pocket, so she didn't do it. She's just having these hallucinations on her own. So it turns out that Polly is also a stop-motion animator. I guess this is a common job. And she offers Ella a job at the studio that she's working at. So Ella goes thinking that she's actually going to be animating, but in reality, they just have her making these little clay eyeballs all day. So she's disappointed, but she does it, but eventually she wanders onto the set. And she sees that Polly literally took stills from the film that she's been working on and basically fucking plagiarized it to make this movie. So Ella and Polly get into a fight, and Ella completely destroys the set and gets kicked off. So at this point, we see that Ella is continuing to lose touch with reality. She's hallucinating more and more. Like at one point, she hallucinates that she herself is made of wax like her figures are. So the little girl comes to Ella's apartment again and tells her the next part of the story, which is the next night the Ash Man is going to come in and touch the girl that is hiding. And Ella is like, absolutely not. I don't like that. Instead, the girl is going to get away. But that night, Ella has another hallucination of the Ash Man chasing her. But this time she actually gets hurt and wakes up in the hospital the next day with an injured leg. So Tom visits her in the hospital and is like, I'm concerned about you. I'm going to destroy your set and your movie. Like, this has gone too far. You are not well. So Ella obviously freaks out and is like, okay, like I agree, but let me be the one to do it. I'll do it with you. So Tom agrees with this and leaves with the intention of meeting her at her apartment the next day to do that. Meanwhile, while she's in the hospital, Ella learns that her mother has passed away. So the next day, Ella is discharged and she returns to her apartment where she is greeted by the little girl. And Ella is so sick of this little bitch that she fucking strangles her to death. But the moment she does that, the little girl turns up behind her completely unharmed. And the little girl is like, okay, now that you've gotten that out of your system, are you ready to continue the movie? And she tells Ella that the Ash Man has to be made with something that bleeds. So Ella proceeds to rip open the wound that is on her leg and pull out a piece of muscle. This scene is fucking foul. But as she is doing this, Tom and Polly show up. They try to restrain her because she's hurting herself and tell her that they're taking her back to the hospital. But Ella, in an absolute fit of fucking rage, attacks them both. She pushes Tom down the stairs, which immobilizes him, and then she violently offs Polly with a tripod. And then she suffocates Tom. And now she has something that bleeds. And she uses them to create life-size versions of the girl and the Ashman. And then the life-size Ashman comes to life and goes at Ella. The little girl is watching this whole thing terrified, saying that this isn't part of the story, this isn't supposed to happen. So the Ashman continues to stalk towards Ella, where he eventually attacks her and eats her face, which is suddenly made of wax. Ella eventually wakes up from this and she ends up in the forest again, and she sees this cabin that is identical to the one that she had in her film. And when she enters the cabin, she finds the little girl. And the little girl is watching this footage of Ella bleeding to death in her apartment. The little girl watches this intently and tells Ella that she loves her film. And Ella smiles and puts herself in this satin-lined box and closes the lid, and the movie ends.
If you've ever been curious about what happens in the Saw movies but you can't handle the gore, have no fear, I'm going to spoil Saw 2 for you. Get ready. The movie opens with a man named Michael in this trap, the Venus flytrap. Billy the puppet comes on screen and tells Michael that if he doesn't get the key out from behind his eye within 60 seconds and unlock the mask, it's going to close around his face and unalive him instantly. Michael is not able to do this in time. The mask closes around his face and all the spikes go into his head, front and back, and he is gone. When the police get to the scene, there's actually a message on the wall that says, "Look closer, Detective Matthews," and they call in Eric Matthews to look at this himself. Michael had been one of the informants that Eric used during all of his busts. But at the scene, they managed to find a clue, and they go to the factory where the lock on the death trap was made, and it leads them to Jigsaw's hideout. Detective Carey, Officer Rigg, and Eric Matthews are staring face to face with John Kramer, aka Jigsaw, for the very first time, and to their surprise, he's a very feeble old man that has all this medical equipment around him. And they're like, "Ha ha, we got you. Is this close enough?" And Jigsaw is like, "You know what? You think you got me, but you're gonna have to stay here and listen to me because there's something going on in that room over there." And to Eric Matthews' horror, when he goes in the next room, there's a series of multiple TV screens that are showing live feed of a bunch of people who are locked in this weird house. But one of the people locked in this house is his son, Daniel Matthews, who he does not have a good relationship with. They fight all the time, and the last time they spoke to each other, he was telling his son to get out. John is ecstatic about this, and Eric Matthews is pissed. He's like, "Let my son out. Where is he? Where is he at?" And John's like, "If you want to find out where your son is, you're going to have to play a game. You need to talk to me until the game is over." We then see the perspectives of all of the people who are involved in the actual game. We have several people who are locked in this house. Every person in the house has been injected with a slow-moving poison that's going through their veins, and they need to get an antidote in order to survive. But however, they have to solve a saw trap in order to get an antidote. In this house, we have Daniel Matthews, obviously, but we also have Amanda Young from the first movie. She survived the reverse bear trap, and we are told that Amanda was self-harming, not being very good to herself in her own words, and that is why she is here yet again. Once they all wake up, they start freaking out, and Amanda immediately knows what's going on. She's like, "Jigsaw has locked us in here. He's testing us. He wants us to survive." And she finds the first note. The note says, "Do not use this key to unlock that door." And of course, one of the men takes the key, puts his eye to the peephole, unlocks the door, and a magnum shoots into his head. He's gone instantly. And everybody's horrified. It immediately sets the scene for how dangerous the rest of the house is going to be. We see back with the SWAT team and Jigsaw that Jigsaw is telling Eric Matthews his life story. He says that he decided to do these things and to put people in traps after his cancer diagnosis. He was diagnosed by Dr. Gordon from the first movie with an inoperable frontal lobe brain tumor. And he said that being told that he had an expiration date made him try to take his own life. He drove himself off a cliff, but he survived. A giant piece of metal goes through his stomach, and he was actually able to pull it out and walk away from the scene. And he was fascinated that his body could repel this giant obstacle, but it couldn't get rid of cancer cells, and he was determined to study this for the rest of his days. He wanted to see if the joy that he got from appreciating his life after having survived that attempt, he wanted to see if he could put that on other people. So he wants to put these other people in these traps to test their will to survive, so that way they will appreciate their lives. Meanwhile, Eric Matthews is distraught. He's not really listening. He's like, "I just want you to get my son back. I just want to see my son again. I need to talk to him. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Please let me save my son." Meanwhile, Detective Carey, Officer Rigg, and the rest of the SWAT team are in the next room trying to find the source of the video feed because they have like a 2-hour timer at this point until the toxin is going to unalive everybody who's in the house. And Jigsaw just keeps saying, "All you have to do is sit here and listen to me talk. If you listen to me talk, by the end of this time, you're going to find your son in a safe and secure state." The people in the house who are still alive start moving around and they find their next trap. It is this furnace trap. And when they read the note and listen to the tape associated with it, the man Abi is the one who's supposed to do this trap. And Jigsaw on the tape recording reveals that Abby was the one who helped kidnap all of the other victims and put them in the house. Everyone else gets pissed, makes Abby go into the furnace trap. Abby does not survive the trap and he gets burned alive. And the 2 antidotes that were in the trap burn up with him. Meanwhile, during this time, everyone is starting to realize the reason why they are all here together. All of them have done prison time with the exception of Daniel Matthews. Daniel Matthews says he hasn't even really done juvie, but he also does not reveal that his father is a cop. This is very important for later in the story. We then get to see one of the most brutal traps of the franchise, and that is the needle pit. I will not be showing you pictures. The needle pit is really meant for Xavier here because Xavier was a drug dealer, and Jigsaw is basically just like, hey, you push this stuff onto others. Now you're going to have to dig through this pit of used needles in order to find a key at the bottom. And when you get the key, you can unlock a safe and it gives you an antidote. And you only have a limited amount of time to do it. But Xavier doesn't want to do it, so he throws Amanda into the pit instead. Amanda, my poor traumatized queen, I love her so much. She goes through the needles and she's throwing them back. She's looking through all of them and she finds the key, but the key doesn't get to the safe in time and the antidotes are locked away forever. And Xavier moves to go attack Amanda, but they stop her. Sorry, Xavier moves to attack Amanda and they stop Xavier from attacking her. Daniel Matthews sits there with Amanda, who's covered in all of these needles. They're all sticking in her skin, and he starts pulling them out for her one by one. It is a painful process. Meanwhile, throughout all of this, the SWAT team is still trying to source the location of the video feed, and Eric Matthews is losing his patience with Jigsaw. And that's when Jigsaw drops the biggest mic drop of all time, and it says, hey, Eric, you want to know what's going on in there? Every single person that's in that game with your son is somebody that you wrongfully convicted and locked away. Detective Carey and the rest of the SWAT team look over horrified, realizing that Eric Matthews has framed all of these people. And John says, yes, you are the worst at police brutality. You are a horrible person, basically. And now Daniel is stuck in there with all of these people who hate you. And you better hope they don't figure out who he's related to. This makes Eric freak out. Xavier is still super pissed that he didn't get his antidote from the needle pit, and he actually goes back to the original room where the guy accidentally got pew-pewed in the head, and he's looking around for clues, and he remembers the mantra from earlier to look at the key over the rainbow. Because basically, when they first woke up in that room, they said that in order to open the safe that was in that room that had one antidote, the keys to the combination would be over the rainbow. And he realizes, looking at this body on the ground, there's a multicolored number on the back of his neck, which makes him realize they should all have a multicolored number on the back of their necks. So if he puts them in rainbow order, he'll be able to unlock the safe and get the antidote for himself. But Xavier at this point is really getting woozy with all of the toxins and everything, so he is on a murderous rampage. Jonas comes into the room, who's another character that's in the house, and he unalives Jonas by hitting him with a baseball bat, and he gets the number from the back of his neck. Now Xavier is on a killing spree. He's trying to get as many numbers as possible. Amanda, Daniel, and another girl named Laura are running around the house with a girl named Addison. Addison separates from them, and Laura begins to succumb to the toxin, and she begins to vomit on the floor and seizing. Around this point, they also find a clue that's a picture of Eric and Daniel Matthews, and it says father and son, to which everyone around is like, oh my God, please tell me that's not your dad. And Daniel says, yes, that is my dad. And that's when they reveal they're the ones that got put away by him, and Daniel is sad and it's awkward, but Xavier hasn't heard this yet. So Laura succumbs to a sickness. She passes away on the floor. Addison goes into a different room, and Amanda and Daniel start moving to a different area of the house because they hear Xavier coming. Xavier gets the number from the back of Laura's neck, and that's when he finds the picture of Daniel and Eric on the ground, and it pisses him off. Addison then walks into a room, and she's very delirious at this point, and she sees another trap, the razor box trap, that has an antidote hidden in the middle of it. She doesn't bother to read the note that goes with the trap. She doesn't listen to the tape. She immediately sticks her wrists into these blades, trying to grab the cure. She messes up the syringe, so all the antidote spills everywhere, and she begins to bleed out because she just keeps pulling her wrist down. Imagine like a McDonald's to-go cup lid. It's like sticking your whole wrist in one of those, but it's made out of razors. Xavier actually comes into the room, and Addison's like, hey, please help me. Can you please get me out? All he does is read the number on the back of her neck and leaves her to die. So now the tension in the movie hits an all-time high. Amanda and Daniel are running through the house, through the basement, trying to get out while Xavier is chasing after them. Eric Matthews sees this on the screen, and he immediately has had enough. He starts beating the absolute fuck out of John Kramer. John's covered in blood, and he's like, fine, I'll take you to go see your son, but I'm only taking you. You get me out of here alone, and I'll take you to the kid. So Eric Matthews does. He takes John, and he escorts him out of the place. Meanwhile, Detective Carey, Detective Rigg, everybody in the SWAT team starts freaking out, but they have actually found the location of the video feed. So they're like, you know what? We'll just meet them at the same place. It's fine. Amanda and Daniel go through the depths of the house, and they actually wind up in the original bathroom from the first Saw movie, and they see all the bodies across the floor, and they have a showdown with Xavier. They manage to overpower him. Amanda and Daniel survive. But when Officer Rigg and the rest of the SWAT team winds up at the location of the video feed, they realize that nobody is at this house except for a bunch of computer screens. And then they pause the video feed. And Detective Carey, who's back at Jigsaw's hideout, sees that all of this was pre-recorded. None of this is actually happening live. And that is when the big mic drop of the movie, the timer counts down to 0, and the safe that was behind Jigsaw opens, and it reveals that Eric Matthews' son is in a safe and secure state the entire time. All he needed to do was sit there and actually talk to him, and he would have been fine. Meanwhile, Eric Matthews shows up to the location that John tells him to go to, and Amanda Young kidnaps him and says that she was a Jigsaw apprentice all along.
In this video, a creature follows you home, then kills you.
Buddy's knocked out. He don't look like he's alert at all. Buddy, you don't hear that? Oh, nah. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. Get up. Ooh, why is your door wide open? He's getting orange juice. Dang, it's storming out, and he gulping it. Pause. Oh, my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Ooh, you're dead. You're dead, buddy. Ooh. He just looked like he not gonna survive. Oh my God.
This was the only governmentally confirmed case of possession.
How many noses does a monkey have?
A completely unknown molecular compound was found in her food. Not a disease, not a parasite, an evil.
In 1974, a group of researchers would get together and form what would be called the Atticus Institute. They decided that they were going to take a crack at one thing: the study of paranormal abilities in humans.
Our goal was to conduct unbiased empirical research on exceptional human abilities, psychokinesis, ESP, precognition, things that are typically considered fringe science or parapsychology.
And for 2 years, it goes about as well as you would expect. They find almost nothing. It wasn't until 1976 when a woman by the name of Judith Winstead was brought to their door.
Can you please stop that,
Can you
Judith?
please stop that, please?
We'd really like to continue.
We had about 10 different degrees between us, including 1 in medicine, 3 in psychology. We knew that was not normal.
The thing about Judith Winstead is that she didn't have any special powers. She wasn't psychic, she wasn't telekinetic. It was something far older and far more incomprehensible than what any of these researchers could come up with.
How do you choose your host?
This lady in Congress apparently was suing Starbucks because they weren't listing the ingredients on their drinks.
Oh gosh.
And the pumpkin spice latte had the active ingredient of ammonia in it.
Oh!
Why? They use it for food coloring.
No.
To make it orange. Yeah. So
There's gotta be a better way.
In Europe, they list the ingredients and they use, I believe, carrot or beets or something. It's like a natural food coloring. But the U.S. Starbucks was using an ingredient that included ammonia in the pumpkin spice lattes to make them orange looking.
I had one yesterday.
Well, they changed it now. So they say.
What are we doing? Why?
Well, I wonder why everyone's dying of cancer.
Because we're drinking ammonia. Yeah, and that's on purpose. That has to be on purpose.
Yeah. Because it's the cheaper option.
And there's no way they just cut it out. It's the middle of fall. You know how many millions of gallons they have of that stuff probably? They're not getting rid of it. Oh my gosh. Well, I got pumpkin spice lattes.
Remember that clip of George Bush Sr. throwing up at the thing?
Yeah.
Did you see the video clip, the news clip?
Okay, I want to show you a video though. This was going viral for a long time in Reddit, and people are still trying to figure out like what even happened. But this man, he has a CCTV camera of his driveway. He walks in, and you see almost like a spirit, like an orb, pass through him and knock him out. Watch. Knock him. Watch. He's around there. Look what happens passing through the screen.
Okay.
Whoa, yeah, you saw it? Whoa. You saw that, right?
Why
Look,
did you
look.
just instantly get
No, but
knocked?
let me slow it down though.
Well, yeah.
Let me slow it down. Look from this corner, the left side.
Okay,
You
boom.
see this white figure, like
Yeah.
an orb.
Orb
Like an
comes.
orb. Knocks him out. Drops. Boom.
Wait, why did he drop out though?
And they don't know why he got knocked out like that.
It wasn't a heart attack or something? Like he could have just dropped?
No, you got look at him.
Oh my
Knocked
God.
out, right? And people are still trying to figure out what
Are you
happened.
sure that's not just coincidence?
It's not coincidence, fam.
Can I see it close up? Let me see. Whoa, that's
weird though.
That's either super perfectly timing, like there was dust, and he got.
That's what I'm thinking, right?
Yeah.
It could have been dust and something knocked him. But what knocked him out?
Yeah.
So I have a video that went viral back in the day, but it's scary, bro. Saudi Arabia police encountered a witch.
What the?
People still to this day don't know if it's real or if it's fake. The reason why they say it's real is because of the way they react. They don't sound like they're acting.
Let us know in the comments as well if you think the video is fake or not.
And also, keep in mind, in Saudi Arabia, they have a law that if people do witchcraft, you can actually get the death penalty for doing it. So, like, let's say this is a hoax. Why would somebody risk their life
Just for a video.
Exactly.
Yo!
Yo, that's mad scary, bro. That's what I'm saying, bro.
Yo, he's crazy for following me. There's two people. Did it just scream? Yeah. They stayed there longer than I would have, bro. I would have been out.
Yeah, bro. If anybody knows any Arabic or if you guys could translate it in the comments, please.